Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And it's Ben.
on Spoiled Rotten.
Oh, that shelf.
Boom. Well, we're going to do things a little different from what people probably are used to from the last 2 years, and we are going to mix some topics together. We're going to do season 3 of Umbrella Academy and talk about Comic-Con that just happened last weekend, the 22nd.
Big bombshells happening out of there. Lots of fun. Can't wait to cover news. We haven't done that for y'all in a while. But very anticipated Umbrella Academy season 3.
Yeah, we're a bit late to both of them, but we still thought it'd be interesting to talk. So,
well, I mean, we're late, but you're obviously here to listen to our takes on it. Yeah. So you're right on time for that, baby.
So yeah, Umbrella Academy. It's a show I just like. I don't feel like I've ever been like, this show, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I enjoy that it is a very unique and got its own style. And I enjoyed this season as well. If I'm being honest, I heard some people being upset about it. The same people that were upset about Scarlet Witch in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness were upset about the rumor, in the as in the character, the rumor, not they had a similar hard time understanding why a female character would be upset and have a and
that's disappointing.
I think I've nailed it down to I think if they're attracted to a woman, they have a hard time understanding that woman might not just be the nice person they want them to be.
I remember you saying that last time too, which is hugely disappointing to hear that take on. I mean, like, I think what it does speak to is we do need more female villain representation. That for sure makes a lot of sense. But what I think there's a lot less empathy or compassion towards these female characters of their place of where their villainness comes from, right?
And I think there's a bit of misogynoir there as well, because
for sure.
No, I shouldn't say a bit, because they also tried to be like, well, how dare the rumor treat Victor like this? I'm like, Victor's in the wrong too.
Victor's not doing great things. If anything, there's to be any defense, it's to be about number one, right?
Yeah, Luther.
It's like how
the rumor's used, but like I think
Allison.
I think it's very clear what's happening, and I like seeing it in Multiverse of Madness. I like seeing it in this season of The Boys, as well as Umbrella Academy, which was characters who are usually in the minority and usually like on the defense, being upset about, why do I always have to be the one that takes it on the chin? Why do I always have to take the high ground? What, like, no one else is playing by the same rules. Why am I still playing this game? And I understood that. I think it's an interesting place to take that character who has lost a lot. And in addition to that, she just experienced like not heightened, like rawest form racism in the 60s. Like, she just came from that. It's not like it didn't take the 40-50 years to get back. For her, it was just a matter of days of being at the lunch counter, of having people pour like coffee on her, like she just experienced all of that. And then to be in this world and be like, I'm still on the outs. Like, this is, I think that was a very interesting way to take the character. I didn't even really see it as like villainous. I think she lost her way, of course, but like I feel like she's trying to like make her way back. And I'm not even saying by the end of the season she's back to being the good guy Allison. I'm just saying,
Right.
I think she saw that she got out of hand.
Yeah, I think that there was a point in time where, especially in the final episode, where she's like, "This is not what we agreed to," right? Like she didn't read the terms and conditions of the agreement with Daddy Umbrella
Hargraves.
Academy, Daddy Hargraves. Yeah, she didn't read the terms of agreement of that, and that's on her. That's her bad. Everyone else was sus on him except for Klaus.
Klaus is just all in.
Klaus was all in on him, man. And I was like, good for you for healing that trauma, but I am going to be so upset with the trauma that you're going to develop with this, Daddy. But it's just, it is the Allison turn. I don't understand why people don't understand it more. You know what I mean? It's just like for them, I'm kind of envious because you and I are clearly coming to the same point. I'm envious because their life has worked out so well that they're like, well, this can't possibly happen. Like I'm like, yeah, no, that shit happens. Like if you keep taking options away from people and they keep having to follow the same, but they have to keep the same expectations even higher all the time. Why is it that they can't have a human moment? And for them having a human moment, like you said, condensed in that time frame, like I don't know what the time span is, and that's the most important thing to talk about within these characters. It's days, right? It's like even let's say you did a month. Yeah, let's say you did a month. Even within a month, the experience, like you said,
I'm sorry. I was saying between the racism she felt, like that scene from last season to this. I think to your point, they spent a significant amount of time. I don't remember actually season 2 that well at this point.
No, that wasn't necessarily my point. I'm just like the point of the fact that all these things are happening within the time span of even if you push it out to a month, that's a lot of crap to deal with and no time to process it, right? And this is happening within a week. For argument's sake,
all of that stuff. She loses her daughter.
Yeah,
and okay, well, I guess we should do like just a bit of the
plot synopsis
for So this season was they get back to what they think is their timeline, but they're actually in a timeline where they ruin things by meeting their dad in the 60s, and he's like, ugh, I hate them. So he picked new kids. He makes the Sparrow Academy instead of the Umbrella Academy. So they're in Sparrow Academy's world, but also because they're there, this entity in the basement of the Sparrow Academy's house is basically growing and sucking people up and basically causing another extinction level event type thing. And as we talked about, Allison's having a hard time dealing with being on the outs once again, even though she just saved the world like for her like 3 times in a week. And then Victor has come out as trans, which is great. I'm glad that they wrote that into the show as
very
well as
happy.
The comics. It's canon in the comics as well as the show, which is
that's
really cool.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear.
And then Luther has found a love interest, which we'll get into because I really like Luther. I think I might like him a bit more than you, but I was just like, that's nice. Diego has a kid on the way with a bit of a fake out there, but he's got a kid on the way.
Yeah,
he had last season.
He had a very chaotic week with Lila and the Babysitters Club.
5 is kind of trying to be like, you know what, maybe we just let this happen because I don't really feel like we're helping things if we just keep going into this. And,
he's like the only constant in all this is we keep doing it, so what if we don't? And then he also gets reminded of his future self, like yada yada yada. He sees a version of his future self in an iron lung, witnesses his own death, and his says, old self says, do not save the universe.
Yes.
So he's just like, I'm gonna kick it with Klaus for an episode. And that's a great episode. I like that episode.
And I like that the 6 of them are dealing with having Ben back in their life.
Oh God!
Even though Ben is part of Sparrow Academy and is a bit, and I like that the actor even is like, why am I being such a bitch to everybody? Like he's like watching stuff and he's just like, what the hell's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? But it is funny. I really like it.
It was one of my biggest things about this season that was like kind of really upsetting but really fun at the same time. Is like I couldn't wait for Ben to show up. Like
Mhm.
through all the first 2 seasons where
You get
he
tastes
was
of him, but
well, no, he's just like
well, even season
he
2, you get a lot because he's like, "Can you give me a hug before I leave or whatever?"
exactly. But like that was the first time in 2 seasons he actually gets to interact with the other
Mhm.
siblings. So
Mhm.
this time he interacts, and all of a sudden, oh, he's a dick, and I'm like, that's not fun. But at
It
the same
was for
time,
me
it
though.
was so much fun watching him do it because I'm like, oh man, he's having a lot of fun doing this right now.
Yeah.
He's good at it too.
So so yeah, there's the Sparrow Academy, which I also like the Sparrow Academy. They
Mhm.
pretty much die off by the end of the season, but I
Yes.
really liked, like, that's Larry David's daughter as the girl who can spit acid at your face, and then you
Oh,
have a,
Oh, really?
yeah,
LSD girl?
yeah, that's Larry David's daughter. Then
Sweet.
there's the guy who was like the, hey, hit me and then you feel whatever you do to him. That's the
Yeah.
guy from Degrassi, the New Generation, so like
But that
Drake's iteration of Degrassi.
right. But that feels like his power was like it only works if I make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if he
if he
got punched
turns
in
it
the
on, that's fine.
stomach, yeah,
Yeah,
if he
that's
okay,
fine.
that okay, I thought it was one of those things where like it was always gonna happen, like the X-Men guy where the blob just
Yeah,
absorbs
I
everything,
got the
but
sense that it was like, okay, I'm activating now. Like,
like
let's
I'm
go.
flexing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll flex my wobbliness. Okay, cool. Okay, that's how I understood the power. Okay.
So yeah, I was a big fan of that. I loved that
Crow Girl?
the sorry, who?
Crow Girl
Oh
or
yeah, she's
Raven
great.
Girl?
Loved it.
Is that who you're talking about?
No, I just loved everything about the Sparrow Academy and how
I
they
agree.
interacted with Umbrella Academy. And I loved, like, that the season starts off with the Footloose thing. I was like, this is great. I'm glad that we're back into this.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I was like, the moment that happened, I'm like, I am on board. And
Yeah,
then there was like, that's how they explained it. That's cool, man. That was a
it was
lot
great.
of fun. Yeah, it
What a
was
great
so
time.
good.
Because
Yeah.
it still felt like there was like some form of team building there where like Diego's
Mhm.
like, shit, we're good at this. And Klaus was like, go get him, Luther. You can
Yeah.
do it.
It was so good. I
But
do
then
love that.
it turns into like a real fight. I'm like, this is great too. I'm so happy this is happening.
Yeah.
I just really like the season, but I think
Both dances in their own right.
exactly. And I think, yeah, I loved the season, and I really, there's some stuff that I didn't really understand, but that's every season of Umbrella Academy.
I agree.
I
At
don't think
this
it fell off
point,
that way. I'm just like,
yeah.
yeah, okay. Well, like, there was something about the dad where I'm like, wait, what? Like, wasn't there a thing where they were like feeding him meds at one point, and then they just kind of
Yes.
like dropped that? Or it felt
Yeah.
like, to me, they just dropped the idea that maybe the Sparrow Academy was fucking with the dad.
Well, yeah. So what they basically did with that storyline was that the Sparrow Academy figured out what the dad was trying to do the whole time, and therefore started drugging the dad, and
So
like,
that they
and that
can
was
just keep doing what they want to do.
yeah, and that was also with Pogo's advice too, because Pogo
Yeah, he's
gives
bad.
them the drugs so that he's like, hey, this is how you can keep him in line, just wink wink. But so like he just takes the drugs and he's like delirious the entire time watching like daytime TV,
But
and
then
that's
he's
how the
off them,
sparrows
right?
keep him under her apps. And then Klaus is like, what's going on with you? I want to have a good relationship, let's wean you off the meds like how I got sober, even though I'm like, you're not sober, dude.
Mm,
Either way, he weaned himself off meds. I think he was like saying the hard stuff. Either way, he weaned himself off the meds, and then and then that was like, right, back to manipulation mode.
yeah, but I guess what I didn't get, which I think you're right, not I think you're definitely right, that's what happened, but I was just like, but it didn't seem like that affected the Sparrow Academy. Like, it didn't feel like they were like, shit, why did you do that? They were just kind of like just kept going as
I
if,
completely agree.
I was just like, I feel like I missed something. But as I
To
said,
their own beat, they were kind of like out of it. But here's my thing with that whole thing. I was like, okay, which one of the sparrows, like how many of them knew that they were doing that to the dad, or were they all on board? You know what I mean? Or was this one of those things where
I don't know. I have an
only
answer to that
Marcus
either.
and one person? So I was like, that was my way of meeting the show halfway, because I'm like, yeah, that did bother me. I'm like, wait, wouldn't Ben care about this, or would Ben know?
Oh, I feel like Ben is definitely the one that was doing it. That was his whole thing.
I
It's a
thought
power
Marcus
play.
was the one doing it, because Marcus
But I
was
think
one.
Ben was, I mean, they both could be doing, but I think the whole show this season was showing Ben was willing to let Marcus be the leader until it didn't suit him. Like, he was the one that was always gunning for number one, and it makes sense to me that he would feel like I got to get dad out of the way.
It's true. He was trying to, yeah. It's even one of the characters in the show goes like, you wanted to be number one so bad. Now that you are, there's no one here.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that was like the whole, and the funny thing is like, that was the whole logic behind his own plan. It's like, if I get rid of Marcus, it's not like get rid of, but you're right. Use them until they no longer serve me. And then they have to get out of the way.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, and it doesn't mean he's going to kill them. He like,
exactly.
I think he is upset that his family is dying, but he is like,
I think he's upset
also,
there's no
I'm in
team
charge.
to command.
Like, you gotta give me the reins.
I feel he's more upset that there's no team to command under his influence. You know what I mean?
I would say that he's probably a less version of the dad in the sense that he wants a team to command, but I think he wants it to be his siblings that he grew up with. So he does want their respect in that sense. I'm not saying that in like and that's nice. I'm saying it's not that he just wants any team to command and that the people, it's that he grew up with these people feeling like I should be in charge, and he wants that satisfaction of them actually being like, we follow you now.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that the people he trauma bonded are the people he cares about in terms of opinion, especially if he's at the level that they are, where they're revered like celebrities, like because every time they show the Sparrow
like
Academy,
Marcus gets to throw his like exercise
towel,
rag at the people, and they love it. So
they're like cheering and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, to that, and there's this great thing that even Five says to Victor through the series too. It's like, we're powerful people. We have to accept that there's going to have a few ants that so we step on through the way. And he's like, I can't accept that. And then like he even goes like, well, then you're going to be miserable. And it was like Ben's version of that being like, okay, he knew his place, whereas like, I'm not alpha power, but I'm not the weakest either. So he's just going to constantly, like you said, play number two until it doesn't serve him anymore. You know? So Ben's character in this season was hugely such a dick, but such an egotistical, easy to understand dick too. It's not like the Reginald Hargraves where you can, by the end of this season, I was full on like, I respect this dude. Like this dude's plan, the long con that he had to get his wife back. Holy crap, man. I don't
respect him, but I also was like, I mean, he had a plan and he did it.
Right. I have to backtrack. I respect the plan and how all three seasons have tied together. Because the moment that happened, I'm like, oh my God. So now when you were talking about the Hargraves things, like, are there things out of place? I'm like, I just accept that that's going to be explained in the future season. That's how I am now.
I don't have like this didn't make sense, so that took me out of it. I just was kind of like, this will either like that's on me for not paying attention, or they'll figure it out. Like they'll figure out a way for this to make sense later. I think I've mentioned this podcast, right? So I'm not going to bring them up again. But like they didn't like that, like specifically that Allison killed the guy that killed all their mothers.
Oh, boo-hoo. It made sense.
Like,
it made so much sense.
Yeah, like
it made sense so much
sense. I'm not like, oh yeah, you should just kill whoever. But it was like, again, we showed that she's lost all of this stuff, and then like she was put in this awkward position of like, okay, finally, I trust my sibling Victor. We're on good terms, and we're gonna work together. And then just turns out like, oh, he's lying to me.
Broken trust.
Lying to me, and this person killed. And then he's saying like, well, it was a mistake, and it's like, well, then that could happen again, or like this. So again, my solve for that isn't so kill him, but it's also like, why do you have such a hard time believing that someone who's already breaking would get to the point of I'm just taking him out then?
Plus, I feel like the people that gave that opinion that, you know, you're hurt, like this it upsets me too. They didn't pay attention during that scene where Allison goes like, wait, hold on. Not only did you lie to me, you risked our lives over someone you barely know, rather than your family.
And you're like, it's what happens to any minority, but like Black
Yes.
women all the time, is
Mhm.
they have to subdue their comfort for other people. They have to
Exactly.
sacrifice that. And so I understand all of that, and I
Mhm.
feel the rage and everything. And
Yep.
we talked about it on the Ms. Marvel episode too, just the constant lack of understanding of what it's like to have this Black experience and actually try to unpack it in heightened ways, because this is a comic book show. But like that would be a very real situation, regardless of, oh sorry, so now I have to act like everything's fine while we take this white man who killed my mom and your mom and your mom, and like I have to just swallow that and like take it on the chin while you lie to me about it.
Like, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
it's absolute bullshit.
The idea that Allison is the only bad person in this is like, no, relax. Yeah.
And
Victor
the worst
is doing shitty things.
The worst part about it too is like how much Allison goes to be like, hey, I accept you, I'm supporting you, I don't understand fully this transition, but you're always be like, the fact that she was the only one that had that scene with Victor.
Yeah, everyone kind of just goes like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, everyone's like, cool.
And I'm
she
not
was
saying
the only
they're
one went
wrong
out
to
of
do
her
that.
way. Yes.
I don't think anything is wrong with just being like, cool.
Yes,
because
that
doesn't change anything. Yeah,
I think normalizing it, there's a lot to be said about normalizing it.
But Allison wanted to have that
exactly
like further conversation. Yeah.
There was an extra connection trying to be made, and because there had always been a strained relationship between Allison and first 2 seasons Vanya and now Victor, right? So Allison has been the only one, as far as I'm concerned, actually working on that relationship, and Victor keeps shitting all over it for reasons. I'm not even going to say good or bad, but just reasons.
I don't think they're good reasons, but they are reasons that many characters have had before, like the whole, well, we got to do the right thing. This is so I don't think they're good reasons, but I understand that those are reasons that many characters we've discussed on this podcast and have just watched in media have made. So yeah, it's not like she's like really off the beaten path here, or sorry, he is not really off the beaten path as Victor. Like, no, that's my point, is not to be like, so let's all shit on Victor. It's that they both brought shit to this situation. So to put it all, so then to shift everything to Allison doesn't make sense to me.
Correct. Because I wish these people were here so I could talk to them, because the Allison arc is even shown through the downfall is shown through, oh, I'm gonna hang out with Diego and we're gonna get into bar fights. That's a thing. Okay, well, and how? So of course no one was killed there, and the heart.
Well, do we know no one was killed?
The Harlan guy. Well, I assume. I'm assuming no one was killed there. Okay, let's assume someone was killed, 1 or 2 people. But why aren't people complaining about that bar fight more than they complain about Harlan? Harlan actually did something to screw stuff up.
I'm sure they did complain about it. I think they just wholeheartedly, like, it was just all in. They hated everything Allison did, and they thought it was because the writers were trying to be mean to her. And
that's poopy. That's so poopy. I think,
to be clear, I didn't listen to the rest of the episode. Like, I heard that first like 7 minutes of them
first take and
going
like,
on
nope.
that, and I was like, no, I'm out.
I'm turning it off. I'm like, this is stupid. You're obviously not coming from a place of understanding, compassion, or empathy. Because let me tell you all something. Understand anger, because it comes from hurt and pain, and that pain needs to be treated.
Yeah,
just like Allison's.
Yeah.
So y'all need to back off and understand that she's had to say, okay, you have it your way enough times. She's right to say, hold up, this is bullshit. And when you're talking about end of the world superhero shit, of course she processes it like that. I'm not going to pretend to know that.
Heightened. It's like, it's her reality. Like, it's a big deal. I think.
But enough about that. They're wrong.
The Luther stuff. So I really thought that
upset me.
I thought that the woman that he eventually marries was like tricking him. I didn't realize she was just on. Like, I didn't realize she was just like, no, I like him. Like, that first bit, which, like, I think we would remember seeing you. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. She'll get it in his head. But I was like, oh, and I'm not saying that's bad, right? I was just like, oh, okay, I'm glad that he found a genuine connection.
Yeah,
if that's the case. And I like that it forced him to be like, well, am I like gonna be more loyal to the Umbrella
Mhm.
Academy, or am I? Because like when he's
Yeah.
at the Sparrow Academy, I like that he kind of comes back after they kidnapped him. And he's like, I don't know, man. Like it was pretty nice. Like they fed me, we worked
Yeah.
out together.
They have everything that we want. They train together. Like,
Yeah,
so
he liked
the
that they were actually. I mean, we as the audience see that they're not actually cohesive, but
yes.
in terms of Umbrella Academy, like
Mhm.
they're always split up. So I can see how he'd be like, this is nice. Like they
Yeah.
actually are together.
Yeah, like the Sparrow Academy is bound through competition,
Mhm.
and everything like that, but the Umbrella Academy is bound through actual love, which is more dysfunctional, obviously. And at least this show is going to try to prove that it's more dysfunctional, especially when you have these kind of situations. But the fundamental difference here, it was, and I love this so much. The whole season, I'm like, this dating thing, this marriage thing between the two families, it totally makes sense.
Mhm.
They're like, like they're such pure characters. I don't like Luther because of the fact that I'm like, I always know what you're gonna do. It's boring. So when he goes and does something interesting, I'm like, oh, I'm all in. But usually I'm like, oh, okay, we know what you're gonna do. Seeing Allison do this from last season and the first season, I'm like, yeah, this is a well-written character. This makes
Mhm.
sense. But Luther is just like, oh, okay, you're doing nothing until the moment needs you to do something. You know what I mean? That's why I don't like
Well,
Luther
I think that
or
makes
that
sense
kind
for
of
his
character.
character. I
Yes.
like how he's written because
Mhm.
he was basically Klaus.
Yes.
Like the what Klaus is in this season is what Luther was the whole time. Like, no, this is all for a
Mhm.
good reason. Like, just
Mhm.
trust dad. So he wouldn't take action the way the others do. Because he
Correct.
would just be like, I'll just wait until this all makes sense. And I like that this, as I said, this season forced him to actually question not
Yes.
only his feelings about his dad, because he does go like, now we're out. Like, we're just
Mhm.
gonna spend time together, we're gonna get married, but
Yep.
also like what he feels about his siblings versus this new person that he actually connects with.
Yeah, I like him a lot more in this season. I like him because he doesn't automatically say yes to the father figure.
Mhm.
And now he's starting to fight back. Now he's found something of his own. He's dealt with these things. This season's where I liked him the absolute most, even though like the previous seasons, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, the bar fights, the drugs, that was fun. But I'm like, I didn't like it. Now I'm like, okay, you've actually changed as a character. This is good. You're free for your person. You're not just following dogma. You're thinking for yourself. This makes you interesting now. The fact that he was just following dogma, a company man, was the thing that made him disinteresting to me. Because I'm like, yeah, you're just
That's
you're
what made him interesting to me.
really.
Yeah, I think you're the
Mhm.
leader, so it's like you it's in your best interest to keep up the status quo
Yeah.
if you want to stay the leader. And I think that it was very interesting that he had this crush on his sister the whole time, and
Yep.
that season 2 was a lot of him processing like, oh, I don't have her anymore, like I
Yep.
guess she's really gone.
Mhm.
And then this season, even when it comes back around and she gets upset that he doesn't want to just go back into their old thing together, and she does the rumor thing on him,
Mhm.
and she has to do it twice because it wasn't enough to just keep him there, because he genuinely was like, I have moved on. So she had to take it another step of like, you want me.
Yeah.
And I was like, and obviously they didn't like that either for Allison, but I was
Mhm.
like, I just because I understand why it's happening doesn't mean I think, and that's why it's okay for her to do that. It's
Yes.
just I understand the compelling writing of like, she went a season where she's like, maybe I shouldn't use my powers, to
Yeah.
like, I'm using them, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think, I'm not going to use them to like get what I want after everything keeps getting taken away from me? I understand her being like, and
100%.
now I'm going to sexually assault you because this is what
Yep.
I want right now. And
100%.
that doesn't make it okay because she used to be a hero. It's
Yes.
just somewhere for her to work from.
Yes. I completely agree. Just because you can understand where someone's coming from doesn't mean you agree with them and the
Mhm.
moralities and ethics behind that decision. I'm like, I understand why, after losing everything and having a place that's unfamiliar and having a family that betrays you, you'd want to have the only sense of familiarity that you can recognize with you right now as a place of comfort. Like, that's selfish. That is incredibly
She's being
selfish.
selfish.
And
She's being like,
it's
no, I lost everything
yeah.
and I want this back right now.
including her ethics and morals, because you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Like she straight up just sexually assaults him, and
Mm-hmm.
just like, and yeah, that's not good. Not good at all. I hate it. That was so hard for me to watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, I can understand why she would be so desperate to abuse her power.
Yeah,
I can understand that, but doesn't mean I could go like, if I was employed at the same company, I'm like, yeah, but I gotta let you go. I can understand why you did it. I gotta let you go though. Like, this is not. We can't do this.
100%. I think it's all interesting stuff. The Diego stuff, I like Diego, so I can't remember his. Is it Lila? What's
Lila?
Okay, so yeah, Lila tricks him initially, being like, "Oh, this is your son."
What a trick!
It's the
for
guy
her to
from
come
Euphoria.
up with on the spot.
So I like that it was the kid from Euphoria. Yeah, of recent events in that show. I was like, "Oh, that's nice. He's here now." But I like.
You can spoil that show. I do not watch that show. He probably died in that show then, right?
Other people might want to see that show, but
Fair enough.
He's a favorite. He's a favorite there, and I like that he's getting more opportunities, and that he's not exactly the same as he is in Euphoria. You can tell like he's doing a similar idea, but it is way more animated than he is on Euphoria.
Right. Because I heard another commentator or content creator say like his Euphoria character's name is Ashtray. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's so hardcore. Like as a kid,
he's
your
a hardcore
nickname
kid.
is Ashtray. Oh my
God,
man.
Don't get it twisted. He's a hardcore kid. So yeah, it was nice to see him in this setting, is all I meant. Was like, it's different. He's doing something different. But then you find out like, that's not their kid, but she is going to have a kid. And forcing a character to be like, do I lean into the family stuff, or do I, or what he was trying to do, which was like, no, we won't make decisions together. You stay safe. I'll protect. And I like that he ultimately did come down to like, obviously we work together. Like that is the interesting thing about us, is that we can go out together and do the stuff that I would have been doing by myself. And I like that for them.
Yes.
I feel like I'm missing. I mean, the Klaus stuff, I'm not a big Klaus fan. I like all of the characters, but he's certainly at the bottom for me. I think.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of the whole like airy fairy stuff. Like I'm just
the eccentric vibe.
Yeah,
I mean, like
he's eccentric. I liked him during that scene I said where he was cheering the family on during Footloose. I like that he had serious moments. I think it is his aunt that he talks to, and like learning about his mom.
Well, I mean, it's just the Amish parish. I don't like just a woman that knew. I don't think there's any relation, but
someone who knew his mom, and I had a good time with him actually having to be grounded.
Yes,
and then I liked when Luther died and he had to like teach Luther about the afterlife, and like he could be a subject matter expert and not an idiot. Yeah. Like I actually liked that stuff, so that was good. But the whole being all in on the dad stuff, I was kind of like, I guess. I mean, it makes sense to me because that's clearly what he would want, is a parental figure of some sort, and he's got right there. So that makes sense. Yeah. It didn't do much for me, but it all makes sense. I think it's well written.
100%. I even like the degree of the show where the pseudo son goes to tell Klaus about the clinical diagnosis that he would have received. He's like, yeah, I had the same diagnosis. I act out the same way. And I'm like, okay, that's really funny that we have little Ashtray over here teaching Klaus about psychology and him working his shit out, only to recognize that he's going to have his trust broken again. And boy, does that suck. Because the way he got betrayed is so shitty. So shitty.
He was just a pawn. And that's kind of why I was like, I know what you meant. You respected the plan, but I was like, nah.
Yes, I respect the plan. I respect how he put things together, but I'm like, yeah, you're a shit dude, man. Yeah. You're a shit dude, but man, can you put together a plan and follow it through? Holy hell, did you have that? Because like for the whole thing, like I completely forgot everything about her wife. I forgot everything about his wife this season. I'm just like,
when I saw her, I was like, oh yeah, I guess he had a wife.
Yeah, I was just
But
like, oh right, he has a Dr. Freeze situation going on. That's why he's motivated by his stuff. Like I fully remember that. And I was like this entire season made him, and it was very effective because the first two seasons had him like hardcore villain, hardcore, so to sideline him like this and let someone else take the spotlight was really, really cool. It just sucks that the entire Sparrow Academy, like you said, was just basically killed off, despite the fact they were so cool.
I really like them.
I mean, Marcus himself could have been expanded on a lot more, but I mean,
I don't think there was anywhere to go with him. He was all in. He was the celebrity. He liked it. There was no real levels to it other than his meeting with Victor, where he was like, okay, I see how this works. And then he got killed before he could do anything.
Right.
I'm going to suggest that we rate this, but do you have any like other final thoughts?
No, I think that's more or less it. Like you said, the highlights of this season were just the Hargrave stuff. The transition obviously was fantastic to see done on screen. Don't know how a lot of the LGBTQ trans community received that, but seeing that representation, that transition on screen is a very, very cool thing, in my opinion. And congratulations to Elliot for having that recognition and the ability to and support for the entire showrunner cast to do that. That's obviously it warms my heart. And then the Allison thing. Allison is easily the standout side story of this whole season. Like I could,
well, it's not really a side story.
Well, not side. Well, you know what I mean. Like that subplot compared to the full plot of the world ending kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like having their own side story. If you could isolate that, but her story this season was so. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen every single time it was her. I'm like, yes, more Allison, do it.
Yeah,
it's good times.
She was great. All right.
Happy that Luther and just the final thing I would add is where do we go now? Are they in a fantasy world? Are they season? I hope they get another season because that was confusing as hell, and I'm sure there's somewhere to go. But I'm excited. I want another season. The pandemic definitely limited the production of this a little bit. Who cares? They did a really, really good job. Kind of yeah, I mean, they got to do their location stuff. I'm like, hey, that's Hamilton. What more do you want? There you go. All right. But yeah, let's rate it.
Yeah, what would you give it?
8.5.
You give it an 8.5? I give it a 9. I love the show. It's great.
Yeah.
I hope they come back for another season.
Yep. Let's see what Reginald Hargrave does now with wifey in the picture. I think that's going to be a power couple. That's going to really mess with things, especially now that they got considerable resources. But for now, San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. So, I think DC had a lot of heat coming into this because everyone was assuming Henry Cavill was coming to announce that he's back as Superman.
There was a lot of buildup for DC.
He did get COVID, so he didn't show up. I mean, I don't know if he didn't show up because he had COVID or if he was never going to show up because he was filming Witcher, which would be the only thing I would think he would show up to Comic-Con for, which would be Witcher, but he was filming it. So at best, he would have had a video sent in.
Right.
So that kind of left DC in the lurch because they did this thing where it was like, to be clear, I think that's really cool that The Rock dressed up as Black Adam, his whole entrance, the electricity, the smoke, that's dedication. That's cool. But then it was like, okay, yeah, another trailer for a movie that I'm just like, I'm gonna watch it because of this podcast, not because I think this is a good idea.
Yeah,
and
absolutely, I completely agree. I'm like, I don't think The Rock can lead a movie.
Oh, he can lead a movie. I just don't think
like this.
It'll be fine. I don't think that it's a good idea for what they're doing, like in terms of like to not connect it to Shazam at all, considering they're so intertwined.
Oh, I agree with you. I feel like that's ultimately going to set up for like Shazam 3 or something like that.
Sure.
I think that's the whole point. They're like, let's build up this franchise and then let them cross over. But at the point, I'm like, okay, that makes sense because you can't have the evilest Black Adam fight Shazam right away. So let's soften them up a little bit for this Shazam with the
We'll
Zachary
see.
Levi.
And then
That's all I'm saying.
Shazam 2 had its trailer.
Which I love the premise
Yeah.
of.
I mean, I like this first Shazam. It's not like it's not
fun.
really at the top for me of the DC movies, which is saying something, but also I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. It's a good
nice.
B minus.
Sure. Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I wasn't that excited about it, and I don't know why they didn't talk about the Flash or Aquaman.
Oh, I know why they didn't talk about the Flash or Aquaman.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, you didn't have your
because they would have to make announcements about. They would have to say
what
definitive
I'm saying is you
things.
didn't have your Henry Cavill announcement, so why wouldn't you shift to like, here's fucking Michael Keaton in the Flash, or here's Michael Keaton in?
Oh, you're right. They could have used Michael Keaton,
and then
but I feel like the Q&A question would have destroyed them, though.
And then they just announced, don't do a Q&A then, just have it all talking. And then they shifted to this right before we recorded, basically Ben Affleck was announced as being in Aquaman 2. I'm like, you don't have to talk about Amber Heard when you could be like, and Ben Affleck's gonna be Batman in Aquaman 2. Like, they didn't do any of that. They were just kind of like, here are these 2 trailers, we hope you like it, because that's all we got. And these aren't even, well, I guess Black Adam's coming. I best they're both coming this year. I just keep thinking Shazam's coming next year for some reason, but they're both coming this year. Fair enough.
Because Shazam is keeping to that winter family time
against Avatar
schedule, right? Yeah. Oh, Avatar's gonna win that battle 100%.
Yeah, obviously. But I think DC kind of just was like, meh.
DC severely underwhelmed is unanimously whatever. Because the Rock showing up in costume, cool, but very, very cringe. Because I was just like, oh, you're really trying to bring this character into our world, right? And that's not going to work because it just looks silly. I
don't know if it looks silly. I just
get to the trailer.
Don't really care about the movie. So
I like when things like when Andrew Garfield showed up, like, oh, you're the one in the mask. Oh, that's way cooler than like, oh, this is
that's
cringe.
just your taste, I guess.
That is my taste, 100%.
I think it's great when people commit to it, and
fair enough.
He tried to put on a show, and
I'm glad he didn't.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't try to sell his soda.
Yeah,
like he did at Gamescom.
He put on a show. He didn't just show up there like in fandom when Ezra Miller was like, I don't know, we don't really have a trailer. We haven't filmed it. I'm like, dude, just pitch to the clip. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, we all know that guy's not going to be involved too much longer in the Warner Brothers camp.
And I do feel bad. We are misgendering them. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Not dude, not guy.
I'm sorry.
Ezra Miller probably won't be involved much longer. However, my point being, in a world where they could control everything in DC fandom, they still had Ezra go out there being like, I don't know, sorry guys, here's some, I don't know, we don't have anything. And then at least The Rock came out and felt like he was behind his product and put on a show.
If you put it that way, I can fully get behind that, because you're right. I would laugh and I would meme at Ezra being like, I don't know, guys, like, here's the clip. Way more than like, oh, you got dressed up, you put this into a production, and it's followed by a little bit of content. That's kind of cool. All right, I'm into it. And then he also took off the costume and answered questions later. Yeah. So
it showed a level of commitment, or at least showmanship, that hadn't been there before.
Yeah, but The Rock always goes all in.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
I do like his professionalism 100%.
I like The Rock. It's just
I don't care about. It's a good idea for the movie.
It might be good, but I'm also like, you're not even fighting characters you're gonna deal with later. Like, I don't care about this.
My issue with it too is like they keep saying like, oh, the power is about to shift in the DC universe, and I'm like, okay, but we all know it's going to shift back once Henry Cavill comes back. If he comes back,
I don't think he will.
But I mean, the thing with the Ben Affleck thing that you said earlier, that he's going to be in Aquaman 2. I'm like, okay, that's friggin' wild. does that mean there's going to be an eventual Justice League too? Because that's what's the point of bringing Ben Affleck back if they're not going to do that?
Because Aquaman is now coming out before Flash, so you can do that and then still have the events of Flash take Ben Affleck out of the equation.
God damn it, that's true.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It's
Not
whatever.
fun. It's whatever.
Yeah.
It's probably to
I
cover
don't
up from the
care
Amber
about
Heard stuff.
DC that, but yes, that's exactly what it is.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's 100% why they didn't do it. Yeah. DC underwhelmed.
Yeah, they didn't mention anything about the Batman 2.
Nope.
It was a weird showing. And maybe they were just like, you know what, Henry's not coming. I don't even know if they officially said he was coming. It just seemed like that was the rumor.
It was a rumor. There was no
rumor,
mention of it.
But I don't think he's coming back. And if he is, great. I like him as Superman, but I don't think he's coming back.
I agree. I do like him as Superman.
And
don't think he's coming back.
So then it just kind of feels like they were like, oh shit, Marvel's coming. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's
really into the Rock.
I mean, if you're DC brought a new trailer for Arkham Knights, which is cool.
Oh yeah, they did do that.
They did that.
Yeah, I didn't even remember until you said that. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I got excited for that because I'm like, yeah, I want to play that game. Sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I will not pre-order ever again.
No, I don't know. I mean, I guess there is benefits to it, but you don't have to unless you wanted like physical merch or whatever, right?
Well, no.
I guess it comes with like extended packs.
Well, you get in-game skins, which is like the stuff that obviously is like cracked to my veins. But the point is, I feel like anytime there's a game production that gets severely delayed, I need to see what the launch is like first, which is why I'm glad I didn't do Cyberpunk. We're getting off track, but like that is the only thing that DC brought that
was interesting.
I was at least notably excited about. Was like, yeah, this is gameplay of Batgirl, and Batgirl looks awesome. It's
Agreed.
So that's exciting. We need to see some Red Hood though. I want to see how that gameplay goes. But either way,
let's move on to Marvel.
Marvel brought it.
We'll build up to Wakanda Forever like they did, but
baby,
they had Ant-Man and the Wasp footage that we don't get to see, which is whatever. Like,
which is fine. I saw some crappy footage of it, but
so I guess people are really happy with Kang's look in it. He's got a couple of looks in the footage.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
that was unfortunate. And the shitty
people said that he has a blue mask, so it's not going to be a blue face, but he'll have.
Thank God!
Makes it look like blue, so you can have the comic accurate, but it will just be Jonathan Major's face.
Thank God. I do not want his skin colored. I'm tired of having people of color painted skin in the comic book stuff.
MODOK was confirmed. Bill Murray is confirmed.
Yes.
I like that people are just like, it's Bill Murray. No need to say a character name. It's Bill Murray. He's in
it. That's what my impression too was. I saw the reaction to the Bill Murray shot in the thing, and I'm like, nobody says who he is. He's probably just playing like an
who he is, but it was a character I don't know. No, he's another villain. Like,
is he a villain?
But I just don't know his name. He lives in thing, and he has beef with Kang.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure, but yeah, it's like there's gonna be like 3 villains. MODOK,
oh my
Bill Murray,
God, that's
gonna
be really funny to see Bill Murray as a villain. It's gonna be really funny.
So, but I think what people were saying was they really appreciated the visuals and how it was shot, which I'm glad that Peyton Reed is getting more respect for what he brings visually, because I thought that like, there was stuff that was obviously borrowed from the Edgar Wright draft in the first movie, but some of the stuff I really liked in the first movie was apparently Peyton Reed, like visually, like what he did. And really? I mean, I don't like Ant-Man and the Wasp as much as some other people, but that still got some very cool visuals in it. So it was nice to hear that continues in this third movie.
Okay, fair enough. At least there's a cohesive thread visually going through through that trilogy, because like now that I'm glad they're not saying Ant-Man 3, because I'm like, could you really call it Ant-Man 3? Because if you were to watch it as a trilogy, it's incohesive at this point. It could be said the same. Every trilogy in the MCU would be, without watching the Avengers, without knowing that interplay. It's just if you were to watch Captain America 1, 2, and 3 back to back, it'd be like this is a terrible trilogy. None of this
Oh, I
makes sense.
disagree. I think that's the best trilogy they have.
No. I'm just saying, if you're like looking for continuity and for everything for a trilogy to explain, then you'd be like, oh, I don't understand all this backstory, and that's all I'm coming from. It is the best trilogy. It chose the wrong one.
But
I
I'm
should've
saying
said
like
Thor.
I wouldn't even
But-
qualify it. I just feel like that's a great trilogy.
Okay, fair enough. I should have said Thor then.
Yeah, Thor is
The
pointed
Thor
for a
saga.
reason. Yeah. But yeah, I think they gave us that. I should say they also gave the She-Hulk trailer, which we actually got to see.
Yeah. Glad to see it's much more polished. Glad to see that they're committed to throwing Daredevil and Charlie Cox back into the suit.
He's in it. I mean, it is clearly going to be Charlie Cox, but they didn't
Yes.
they didn't commit to showing Charlie Cox. They just showed
Which
a
is
torso,
weird.
which
Yeah. Which is
I
weird.
get it, and I like that this wasn't at Comic-Con, but they put out another feature where it's her breaking the fourth wall again, being like, I just don't want you guys to think that this is going to be like a cameo heavy show.
Yeah.
Except for, and then she lists she doesn't even list Daredevil, which is interesting, but she's like, except for Wong and Blonsky and Bruce. and I've heard that there's another big cameo, which makes sense if you've read the comics. But it does mean that there is at least some Fantastic Four casting confirmed based on this. Which
I've heard some rumors. Are we willing to say who that rumor is?
Well, I mean, it's the rumor is Jason Segel as the Thing.
Boom. Yeah. Ben Grimm.
We'll see if that happens. Apparently it wasn't announced because they're hoping that by D23 they'll actually have the full cast ready to go.
Right.
So they didn't want to like get people's hopes up by showing that and then having people like, well, then who else is in there? Because they have not completed the cast yet.
Of course. They're probably still trying to find Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
Human Torch.
Or it's a lie and he is not the Thing. But I'm willing to believe they just haven't figured out the whole team, so they didn't bother trying to
Yeah. I'd love if he was just literally played a cameo as one of She-Hulk's Tinder hookups.
In the comics he's asking her for help, and the whole thing is like, oh, he always helps her, and then in this case she's not able to help him, and he's kind of like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, like I'm always there for you. So it's not a hookup, it's more just they're really good friends, and again, they might not adapt it directly, and maybe it will just be like, it makes sense because he's a part of this storyline in the comics, and they might do Tinder hookup, but in
no, I was just saying it would be
more
funny
of a
if that was
platonic
all
friend-
his
friend.
character. Yeah, I was just saying like that would be funny if all his character
did
was
was
that,
that.
and like it was just like it was a decoy, baby, just like the Ralph Boner thing.
But yeah, that's She-Hulk and Ant-Man. They showed Guardians footage, which we don't get to see.
Yep.
There's
And
Baby
I'm
Rocket, which
upset about it.
Everyone liked seeing Baby Rocket.
There's Adam Warlock,
they
Will
showed Adam
Poulter
Warlock.
in full comic accurate look, which is
I'm
to
a
me,
big
I'm
fan
like,
of Will
what does
Poulter,
that
so I'm
mean?
glad he's in this.
Yeah.
And the guy who played Myrn in Peacemaker is playing the Grand Evolutionary or whatever that is. And he actually showed up dressed up again, and he didn't. I mean, obviously The Rock was in character with Black Adam as well, but again, like just showing the amount of effort Marvel put into it, that they had the Rock thing as well as footage and just more content to share with people.
Yeah, I'm convinced that all Marvel needed to do was share 2 titles upcoming, not even give release dates, and they would have beat the DC release schedule. They could have just said King Dynasty and the Secret Wars, and then they would have beat DC.
That's all they needed.
That's all they needed.
That's
how incohesive DC was. That's
but I
so
like
bad.
that, like all of that was leaked beforehand, because everyone's like, look, they trademarked these names way beforehand. So then they're like, that's fine, we still have all this other stuff.
But I like it because they're like, yeah, okay, you know what we trademarked, but do you know when it's going to happen? Do you know what it's going to happen in relation to this? Because we can only see movies.
Like, we don't have to dwell on this. We can just be like, okay, yeah, you knew that we trademarked it. This is happening.
Yeah.
After you see all this other great stuff as well.
Because now the fun part is we got Phase the confirmation that we're going to cap off phase 4 very, very soon. And
with
Wakanda Forever, it's going to be the finish of phase 4. And then we're moving into phase 5, which they gave us a full slate for. And then they gave us 3 movie announcements and dates for phase 6, which of course is subject to move, as are any of these dates, pending another pandemic, whatever. But it's
add-on DLC content for the pandemic.
I don't. Well, I mean, that's what they keep doing with mutations the stupid virus does with mutations every single year. And what happened with that stupid monkeypox thing? That's not gone. Like,
it's very much.
It's still very much a thing.
I think it's just a saving grace that kids aren't in school right now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, hey, listen. At this point in my life, I'm like, what else? What else you got, world? Let's all get comfortable. Let's all get comfortable with our Disney Plus subscriptions and talk about Marvel all day until we all get cabin fever together. But we're not alone if we're getting it together.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't have much to say about the Guardian stuff because we didn't see it. I wasn't really gonna.
They did. James Gunn's like very much. This is the end of the Guardian's journey and all that kind of stuff.
What that means before.
and what that means is up to anyone's guess whether or not they all die or they just.
Well, he specifically said it doesn't mean everyone dies.
Yeah,
just stories end.
Some people will probably die. Though,
yeah,
but Drax is. I'm betting Drax is going to die. But Gamora is the leader of the Ravagers.
Yeah,
in this footage, which makes sense. It's a comic run.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it is a comic run for Gamora. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad they get that, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe Peter Quill and her do power couple the Ravagers together, and that's off in the sunset they go, and they'll just come back every team up movie.
Or Peter.
Who cares?
Dies.
Or Peter dies.
Something tells me Peter dies, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That seems to be the only way for me that the Guardians would like disband if they didn't have like the
leader,
de facto leader. Then they would all have to go off and do their own thing. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
I would rather they have the happy ending, not because I'm divorcing the actors from the characters. I would rather Gamora and Peter have a happy ending, but I think that's where he's going with it. So
I agree. Plus, once you introduce Adam Warlock into the series, then it's like, okay, well, then Adam Warlock's going to do everything then.
Yeah.
So it's just it's another overpowered villain character, not villain character. But apparently, the interesting thing is with the comic accurate look of Adam Warlock, there is a spot on the forehead for where the Soul Stone would be, and it's visually there. So that's a cool little nod to whatever might happen. I know you said you wanted to move away from the Infinity Stones, and I agree at this point. So I don't know what that's all about, but maybe we'll see. Like Vision, does he get a synthetic Infinity Stone, which is ridiculous to me.
We will see when the movie comes out for sure, or the trailer. Who knows?
Yeah, and apparently Gunn said they're not releasing it because it's not polished enough yet, which I can respect, but at the same time, no, I can't. Like, don't do that, man. Don't give them their like 1 year out thing. You're like, oh, there's a trailer, we're gonna show it, and it's this emotional, and everyone gets to describe it online, but no one gets to see it. Come on, you're obviously gonna change up that trailer, what it's gonna look like when we actually do see it 6 months from now. So you just share in the making footage. Just share the footage. Don't call it a trailer then.
Yeah, I think sharing is better, but it is what it is.
Yeah, fine. I just have to watch crappy cell phone footage, but whatever. Trying to be like a CSI detective. Oh, this scene's linking together here. Nope. Had enough of that for about an hour. But yeah,
is there anything else that I guess they showed Spider-Man freshman year, which they had to clarify is just in the multiverse. It's not 616.
Okay, because I was going to ask you if that was a part of this, and I'm glad you
not part of the presentation. That it was like,
right,
it's his story into the MCU, and then it was like, what? No, it's not.
So I guess that's how they're bridging into the Spider-Verse stuff with MCU stuff a little bit more.
I don't
Maybe.
think so.
Or potentially, I don't know. Maybe we'll see an Easter egg where you see some of that animation style come over. We see an X-Men 97 thing.
Yeah, X-Men 97, where Magneto's the leader now.
Yep. And there's a couple of character change-ups.
Yeah.
I don't know if they confirmed whether or not Wolverine is there. I think they were being suspicious about that.
No,
But
he's in it.
is he? Okay,
Yeah,
that's good. That's good to
Part of
know.
the list. He's listed on IMDb. He's in the
Okay,
picture
good.
where they show the lineup.
Okay, I didn't see it mentioned for some reason.
Yeah.
That must have happened really fast because I was just more distracted by the Magneto thing.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah,
just like, oh, this
Wolverine-
is interesting. And now I do have to go back and watch that series now.
Yeah, I'm on season 2 right now. It's
Yeah.
I respect that they tried to do something with it, but it's hard to watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of cringe in it.
I mean, yeah, I
Yes,
mean,
there
like,
is. There's a
stuff
lot of
doesn't
cringe
line
in
up.
it.
It's more
Yeah.
like I'm listening to it while I'm on my phone because I'm like, I can't really watch it or else I'll lose
I-
respect.
Yeah, I agree. I have it on while I'm gaming,
Yeah.
and I'll like look down while I'm loading, and I'm like, or while like there's a big enough like, oh, the Phoenix Saga. Yeah, I'm not gonna game that much, but it's one of those things that I'm like, I don't know how far they're gonna go with the 97 thing, and what's the point of it. So, but anyways, but
I think
the
it's
notable
gonna be a big
things
one.
about Phase 6. I mean, y'all can look up Phase 5 on your phones or whatever, but Phase 6, the notable things that are missing from that release are, of course, X-Men. There's more stuff like more Disney shows that need to be slotted in that are confirmed, but need to be slotted in. I think like
Mhm.
Armor Wars needs to be in there, like the Ironheart thing. Because the
Ironheart
Armor
was
Wars,
slotted
Ironheart was slotted in. Okay, was that in Phase 4? 5. Okay, Phase 6.
6 only
So,
had the 3.
but Armor
things.
Wars needs to happen still.
Mhm.
Because the showrunner was like, no, it's still happening. It's still happening. And I felt bad because I'm like, is this like one of those NBA situations where everyone knows the coach is gonna get fired, but the coach pretends like it's not gonna happen? Or any
Who
major
knows?
league sport for that
Well,
matter.
Don Cheadle was listed in Secret Evasion, so maybe they're
Yep.
not going to do Armor Wars, but
Maybe they fused it together. I don't know. But yeah, there's no X-Men announcement in there. Fantastic Four's leading off
Phase 6.
Phase 6, and Kang Dynasty and the Secret Wars is
Yeah.
back to back. So that's the cool thing. And we finally get to see the Avengers title, and we get to see Captain America New World Order. That's gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing that, baby. That's gonna be really, really good. But yeah, X-Men.
right.
Where's X-Men? Don't know.
That's why I think X-Men 97 will be pretty important. But
We'll have to pay attention then,
yeah.
for sure.
But I think it's time to get to what I care about, which is Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
I think that was a great trailer. I think I've
Oh my
watched it at
God.
least 3 times each day since it came out.
Yep, I agree. It's been my morning routine pretty much. Coffee, Wakanda Forever.
I love that the entrance into Hall H was the actual singer that did like the singing in the first movie.
Really?
Yeah,
Didn't
they
know
had the
that.
drums and everything. It was a
Wow.
great presentation. Then Ryan Coogler came out and talked about, Chadwick's hand on his shoulder the first time they showed, and he's like, I feel it this time. And they brought out the cast. It was really interesting learning from people like Danai Gurira, who plays Okoye, that like she really appreciated having new people on set because they had kind of the emotional bandwidth to like carry them while they were having bad days, like missing Chadwick and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think Lupita was saying like there was no number 1 on the call sheet because that's for Chadwick. Like, you got to stay with them that way. But yeah, we're not gonna describe the trailer. Like everyone's seen it. It's great.
Or everyone should see it as much as we have.
I just feel like that's a conversation that moves to YouTube now, when you can be more visual. So like,
100%.
yeah, use if you haven't, you've paused this and watched it by now and come back to this episode. Like I always tear up. I love the song choice. I love that it's
Oh God, that
Bob
sound choice
Marley
is
sung
amazing.
by an African artist, Thames, I think she's from Nigeria, mixed in with like the African American Kendrick, like just feeling like a bunch of the cultures coming together of the Black diaspora, and then like
it's very much
words
Wakanda,
trying to be comforting, like trying to be comforting. I appreciate all of that before you even get to the visuals, which I think are great. But just that music selection and the mix of it, not because I'm like, oh good, they put hip hop in it, but it's just like, oh good, they're mixing everything together from the diaspora that I feel anyway, or hitting on the main elements of the African content, the North American content, but within the continent, but within that still like the Caribbean, the American, and Nigerian as represented by Thames, and like all of that works for me before you even get to the visuals. And then I like the Namor stuff, like him being born underwater, and just so you get a sense of what that's gonna look like when you're in Atlantis. I even like the concept of like, it looks like Atlantis is being, for lack of a better term, colonized, and that's something Wakanda never had to deal with. So there would be some kind of like
there's
anger towards them, like,
yeah.
hey, how come, what's going on over there that they get to sit so pretty while we are we also could have been a powerhouse and kind of got limited.
I feel like there's also like a discussion, there might be a discussion about like how they hated the fact that Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa, like brought Wakanda out of the shadows, and by virtue brought their stuff out of it. And it's notable to say that they've committed to saying it's not Atlantis in this. They're staying away from Atlantis, and I don't know how the pronunciation is, but it's Mayan or Aztec related. So that's, they're going that angle, which I'm like, sure, I don't care. Like, I don't. It's
I
good
think
for
that
Namor.
it does matter, and it's cool because of Tenoch Huerta, who's playing Namor, and he's not Mexican American, he is Mexican. I can't remember where in Mexico he's from. I apologize about that, but like that, what he said on stage about inclusivity and diversity, and being like, it would take a director like Ryan Coogler to like bring out like my actual culture and put it on the screen this way, and make it the same way that's what Ryan was kind of mining from for his version of Wakanda. Like obviously he had the comics and stuff to borrow from, especially with Dora Milaje and how that worked out, but like at the core of that story was his feeling of like, like this is where I'm from, but do I feel connected to it, and what have I done to like that? And I think that he's giving Tenoch, I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but I think it's Tenoch, an opportunity to have a same kind of journey. And I think that's really beautiful. So yeah, to me it is good that they're not just going like, and it's Atlantis, if that is in fact what they're doing, that if they are actually grounding it that way, then that's really cool.
I agree, because what I mean is like, it's whatever moving away from Atlantis, because I'm like, whatever.
You're saying you don't care that it's not comic accurate.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, is because I'm like, we're past the era of comic accuracy. Plus this era of the MCU is committed to giving you comic book accurate suits and everything like that. So like,
like he looks like Namor. I mean, yes, he has like Aztec Mayan jewelry, but he looks like Namor.
And he's got the fins on his ankles. Like what more do you want? Like you see that in a close-up in the baby shot. So like, it's okay.
You could also see it when he's an adult as well. It's not like
I didn't realize that.
It's not a focal point, but it is. You can see it when he's an adult as well.
Gotcha. But I like the idea of like, this seems hugely complex, like the passing of their king, all this kind of stuff. Like, what was their relation with vibranium? Because apparently they have vibranium too, don't they?
I don't know anything.
I mean Namor in the comic line, but I mean, I don't know if it would make sense, and that's fair enough. I don't know, but apparently he's supposed to be the Marvel's first mutant confirmed, but now Kamala is, so people are upset about that, even though they shouldn't be. Who cares? Whatever.
I know we talked about this on them as well. Doesn't mean he's not the first
exactly
mutant, but also he's only the first mutant because that was the first one they wrote. Clearly,
exactly.
Apocalypse is the first mutant. Like that's
exactly.
Yeah. It's
It's
only that was the first confirmed mutant, but he isn't the first mutant.
It's like when people are like, "Hey, what's the first Pokemon?" And you're like, "Wait, what question are you asking? Are you asking the first designed Pokemon ever? Are you asking the first Pokemon in terms of the numbering system? Or are you asking about the first Pokemon that you choose? Because those are all three different questions or answers, depending on what it is. Your question's flawed, kind of deal. So, yeah, I don't think it matters where, like Atlantis. Screw Atlantis. I'm all down for this new background of Namor because this is going to be way more interesting. And with Ryan Coogler's ability to create that world that's not influenced by colonization, and what that would turn into in this modern day is dramatic. And this for him to be able to explore, because you're right that the diving scenes, it looks like pure colonization stuff is happening.
No, I think they're saying that like they got colonized, like the actual history of like the conquistadors and stuff. Like I think they're saying that it still happened, and that's how they kind of lost power. So it would be before T'Challa opened up the.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It's gonna be very, very interesting to see how that goes. How much the comic line it gets adapted. I know Wakanda does get flooded in the comics, as visually it shows here. It's very interesting that she goes like, all my children are lost. This is the mother, Angela Bassett. Yeah,
didn't specifically say children, but
but all my family is gone. So like, where's Shuri? Like, does Shuri go on a quest too? But I thought all the roots were burned by Killmonger or all that kind of stuff. I don't know, but like, this is going to be such an interesting movie. I'm gonna love it so much.
I love it. November 11th. I can't wait.
I cannot wait.
All right. Do you have anything else to say about this? I know people are still going on about they should recast Black Panther or T'Challa, which is stupid because there's a multiverse. Like if you really wanted T'Challa, like you can just have another T'Challa come. You don't have to recast the 616 T'Challa.
I'm just like, I wish people would just see what's there or what they have planned instead of just commenting on it.
These are actual humans that would have to go to work and feel a way about that.
Yeah.
I know that T'Challa, that Chadwick's brother was like, yeah, recast him. It's like, we don't have to play into the whole all black people are replaceable. Like maybe this is the right thing to just let it be that for the 616 continuity.
I agree,
especially since that has happened in the comics before.
I agree.
Shuri takes over and T'Challa comes King of the Dead. Like you don't need to recast him.
I agree.
Just let this be. It's very unfortunate. It's very sad, but also we're not involved. Not Chadwick's brother isn't involved with these productions. We're all like from the outside pushing these things in, and I think those interviews. That's why I brought them up. Hearing from the cast. I can feel that they might need some time before you just go ahead and recast.
100%. I mean, let's look at another franchise that got severely rocked by one of its franchise stars dying in the process. Fast and the Furious. Like that franchise, like they did what they did with Paul Walker and rewrote and all that kind of stuff, reshot and all that. And it was fundamentally like there's a sadness to that movie just seeing him on screen in that, right? I don't want to see that in here. I want the grief to be properly acknowledged, and that's what this movie is giving us, right? It's giving us that funeral scene, that lovely, beautiful, all-white funeral scene where it's devoid of color, and that's significant because even like in the Chinese culture, there's like a lot of funeral stuff that's like, oh, this is all supposed to be all white or something like that in some cultures and traditions. So I love that those kind of things are, across culture and all that kind of stuff. It's not just all black, but it could be all white, to grieve. But the process of grieving here is so much more important, especially if you think about what phase 4 really is. It's processing trauma, processing grief, and looking to outworldly things to kind of give us that hope, right? For a lot of people processing grief, they look to religion and prayer to get their answers. And this phase 4 is all about that. what are our heroes looking to in their points of grief? Are they looking to religion? Are they looking, what do they do? Like in Thor's situation where like, oh, literally people worship me. What do I do? And he's got to process his grief. Like it's a wonderful way to end phase 4, to actually properly grieve Chadwick Boseman's death. And like you said, the interviews, if they're the cast members, they have to be feeling it. I like to believe that these Marvel people are all family in this franchise. I know there's some Marvel people that are like estranged from everything. Like Evangeline Lilly is not necessarily the tightest knit with everyone, but like that's okay. Evangeline Lilly from the Ant-Man franchise.
I hope she's not tight knit with anybody.
That's what I mean. She's like not tight knit with anyone in that series, but like in this franchise, everyone seems tight. Everyone seems like really, really a family, right? You feel on board with that. So let this family grieve. Let the production crew do their thing. You know, I push back against those internet haters. This is the perfect way to cap off phase 4. I can't wait for it.
And the perfect way to cap off this episode. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We are part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films, Changing Reels. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, more shows than I even mentioned. If you want to hear older episodes of Spoiled Rotten, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @tdfspoiled. Please get in touch with us there. Let us know what you thought of San Diego Comic-Con, Umbrella Academy, and anything else we've covered or should cover. And, get on all the different podcast platforms and rate, review, subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Radio Public. So, please rate, review, share, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.